In this video, we're going to understand the reasons behind power cuts in China. Why China is facing power crunch. See, the first thing that you need to know is that almost 60% of the Chinese economy depends on coal for generating electricity. In fact, China is the world's biggest consumer of coal power energy. Here is a list of the countries. Pay attention to the coal consumption with respect to world share. 50% of the world's consumption is alone done by China. That means the issue is with respect to supply and demand. To make you understand in a very simple way, let's imagine a power station. This is a thermal power plant. You know how a thermal power plant works, right? It generates electricity by converting heat into electricity. Coal is burned to boil water. Boiled water produces steam. Steam makes the turbine move, and that is how electricity is generated. So coal is essential for a thermal power plant for generating electricity. So far we have understood that China needs coal. Now I'm going to tell you about the factors that have contributed to power cuts in China, and further it has also affected the Chinese economy. The problem is that China's economic ambition has made China to face this issue of power cuts. Let me explain what I mean. You must have heard about China's plan to become carbon neutral by 2060. Last year in September, in UN General Assembly meeting, China pledged to become carbon neutral by 2060. Carbon neutrality means any carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere from a company's activities is balanced by an equivalent amount being removed. That means companies have to reduce carbon emissions or burning of fossil fuel. So China has pledged that by 2060, it will reduce its carbon emission. In other words, China is saying by 2060, they will reduce their economic activities that run on fossil fuel. Of course, China will never stop working, right? You have to read between lines. Either China will develop alternative energy or they are straight away lying. But let's give it a benefit of doubt that China is not lying and it will move towards alternative energy plans. But for sure, China will not stop its industrial work, because that is what fuels China's expansionist ideology, and that is what makes China the workshop of the world. Anyhow, so on one hand, China has openly said it will cut down on carbon emission by 2060. Even though China is the world's largest consumer of coal and second largest economy after the United States, China is still classified as a developing nation, even though China's greenhouse emission has exceeded those of the US. So on one hand, Chinese government has openly said it will cut down on carbon emission by 2060. On the other hand, China has not done anything practically in moving towards energy efficient model. But then China's coal production has slowed because of new regulations. To show to the world, China has lowered its coal production. But inside the country, the Chinese government has not yet made any solid plans that will help China in transitioning smoothly towards renewable energy options. In other words, China has no alternative energy policy. So, lack of alternative energy policy, then reducing coal production, and now when the world has reopened after the pandemic, demand for Chinese goods have increased. That means Chinese factories have to produce more good. For that they need electricity. But then just now I told you, China has lowered its coal production. That means currently China's coal production capacity is unable to keep up with Chinese factory demands. And the demand is not just from factories, it is also coming from households. Because winter is starting, people need electricity for heating, running appliances, and all other Chinese gadgets that have been produced in the last decade. You know, there is a saying, it's not healthy to have too many options. While technology is aimed towards making life easy, but then technology also needs electricity. So domestic energy demand is too high in China. Try to understand this. The Chinese government reduced coal production since last year September. Instead of making an alternative energy policy, the Chinese government increased the price of electricity as a measure to control energy consumption. So basically, if government wants to discourage you from using something, or if the government wants you to limit the usage of a particular thing, what government does is it increases the price of that commodity, so that automatically the demand as well as the usage is controlled. So the Chinese government did the same. It increased the energy prices earlier this year, which was part of their carbon neutrality plan. This step of the Chinese government was the spark that ignited the fire of economic issues that depends on electricity. If I have to summarize all of this in short, just remember one thing: any kind of development activity comes with a cost. We know that China is world's biggest exporter of goods. To produce anything, you need energy in the form of fuel, electricity. Energy comes from both renewable and non-renewable sources. Now purely relying on net 100% energy coming from renewable source is not practical. People misinterpret it. All electricity cannot be generated from renewable sources. We will still need fossil fuels as long as they exist beneath the earth. That means if China's aim is to be on top of the economic chain, then it will have to keep producing things. For that they have to rely on fossil fuel and green energy. Plus the Chinese government as of now don't have any renewable energy policy. And then they have also made unrealistic claims of achieving carbon neutrality. So you see they are stuck in between their own ambition and current resources. So in the hope of finding a midway, the Chinese government increased the domestic energy prices for controlling household consumption, and that acted as a domino effect and went on affecting other areas of the Chinese economy. And now it has also come in the news that the Chinese government has decided to increase coal production capacity to meet the shortage. But then digging out coal from ground and transportation will take some time, and plus that will also add more cost to the energy prices. Meanwhile, China is also looking forward to import more coal from Russia, Indonesia and Mongolia in order to meet their supply shortage. So what we learn from this is that being ambitious also has its own negatives. China wants to grow fast, but growing fast also comes with a cost. One wrong move, it will halt country's economy. So increase in energy demand due to post-pandemic economic recovery, then strict limits on coal production, increase in energy prices. These are the three blows that is causing power cuts in China.